Hey guys, how are you today? Quick rant before we dive into today's chaos. As some of you might have noticed, YouTube's algorithm has decided I'm not special anymore. Shocking, I know. So now if you don't like, comment, or do a little backflip in the algorithm's honor, this video might just vanish into the void, never to be seen again. Seriously though, even a hi or "this is wild" in the comments helps way more than you think. It tells YouTube, hey, people actually like this channel. Maybe don't hide it from everyone. That can really help push my videos out to a wider audience, not just to my subscribers. So if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it. Now grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the drama. You won't want to miss this one. My husband and I have been happily married for several years now. We share a beautiful daughter who has brought so much joy into our lives. My husband has always been passionate about gaming, and long before we even met, he had started his own YouTube channel dedicated to it. Back then, however, his channel was quite small, and he had only a handful of subscribers. At that time, he was also working a regular 9-to-5 job, which provided stability while he pursued his hobby on the side. He never let go of his love for gaming, but YouTube was more of a passion project than a serious source of income. Things took a difficult turn when COVID-19 hit. Like so many others, he lost his job when the company he worked for shut down. It was an incredibly stressful time for both of us, especially since I was pregnant, and suddenly I was the only one bringing in money. He was devastated since losing his job wasn't just about income. It also affected his confidence and sense of security. Despite the emotional toll, he didn't give up. While he actively applied for new jobs, he also decided to put all his energy and focus into growing his channel. His dedication and hard work eventually paid off. Slowly but surely, his channel started gaining more subscribers, and before long, it became a real source of income. The same passion that had once been just a hobby turned into something that helped support our family. It wasn't an easy journey, but looking back, I admire his determination and resilience. After I gave birth to our daughter, my husband made a big decision. He chose to become a full-time YouTuber while also taking on the role of a stay-at-home dad. Since his work mainly involved gaming and creating content from home, it made sense for him to also be the primary caregiver for our daughter. He was already going to be home most of the day. So rather than hiring outside help, he decided to take on the responsibility of looking after her himself. I have to say, this arrangement has worked out really well for us. My husband is an incredibly involved and hands-on father. He doesn't just watch our daughter, he also actively engages with her, plays with her, and takes care of her needs. At the same time, his channel has continued to grow, bringing in more opportunities and income. Meanwhile, I also contribute financially and make sure to do my share of household chores, so we have a good balance in our relationship. One of the most exciting things about his success is that it has allowed us to do things we once only dreamed of. Because of his channel, we've been able to travel internationally multiple times, exploring new places together, and creating amazing memories. It's something we always wanted to do, but before it felt like more of a distant goal. On top of that, he helped me pay off my education loan, which was a huge burden lifted off my shoulders. Last year, we even moved into a new home, something that felt like a major milestone for our family. Looking at where we are now, I truly have no complaints. However, not everyone sees our life the way I do, especially my sister. She has very strong opinions about my husband's role as a stay-at-home dad and full-time YouTuber, and let's just say they aren't exactly positive. To give some background, my sister's life has been quite different from mine. She dropped out of college at a young age and made the impulsive decision to run away and marry the love of her life. At the time, she was convinced she had found her happily ever after. But things didn't turn out the way she had hoped. Her husband got her pregnant, but instead of stepping up as a father, he pressured her to terminate the pregnancy. She refused, choosing to keep the baby, and that decision changed her life completely. Now she is a single mother raising twin children on her own. Her ex has completely abandoned his responsibilities and barely contributes anything to their upbringing. He claims he can't afford to pay child support because of his massive gambling debt. But I don't believe him for a second. From what I've seen on social media, He has recently moved on with a new girlfriend and seems to have no problem spending money elsewhere. It's painfully obvious that he just doesn't want to take care of his kids. This is exactly why I have always tried to support my sister in any way I can. As her older sister, I've always felt a deep sense of responsibility for her and her children. No matter what mistakes she's made in the past, she's still my sister, and I can't stand by and watch her struggle alone. Over the years, my husband and I have done our best to help her get back on her feet. We helped her buy a car so she could have reliable transportation for work and taking care of her kids. We also regularly assist her with rent because we know how hard it is for a single mother to make ends meet, especially without consistent child support. There have been times when she was completely out of work, and we stepped in to buy groceries for her and cover some of her children's expenses. We never make a big deal about it or expect anything in return. For us, she is family, and family helps each other out. The real issue, however, is that my sister seems to look down on my husband for some reason. Despite everything he's done, not just for me and our daughter, but even for her, she still holds this outdated view that a man should be the one leaving the house to work a traditional job. Over the years, she has made a few comments that made it clear she doesn't respect his role as a stay-at-home dad and full-time YouTuber. She has casually mentioned to me that she doesn't think it's right for him to be just sitting at home all day while other men go out and work. Every time she's brought it up, I've calmly explained to her that times have changed. My husband isn't just sitting at home. He's working hard, and in fact earning more money from YouTube than he would at a regular job. So why should he go anywhere else when he's not only providing for us, but also getting to be a present father for our daughter? A few times my sister has taken things further by making jokes at his expense. She has called him Mrs. and has jokingly referred to him as the woman in the relationship. My husband and I have never let these remarks get to us. We've always just laughed them off, knowing that her opinions don't define our life or our happiness. This weekend, my parents hosted a small family get-together, inviting all of our relatives for a nice meal and some quality time together. It was a warm and lively gathering, with everyone catching up and sharing stories. During lunch, the conversation somehow shifted to our recent trip to Greece. My parents were absolutely beaming as they told everyone about it. They were so excited and proud, gushing about how beautiful the trip looked from our social media pictures and how much my husband and I must have enjoyed ourselves. Since no one else in the family had ever been to Greece, everyone was eager to hear all about our experience. They asked questions about the places we visited, the food we ate, and the memories we made. At one point, my aunt chimed in saying how genuinely happy she was for us. She found it inspiring to see my husband and me doing so well, and how our success had allowed us to create a better life for our child, one that we never had growing up. It was such a sweet thing to hear, and I couldn't help but smile in appreciation. It felt nice to be acknowledged. But while the rest of the family was celebrating our happiness, my sister's reaction was something entirely different. She stayed quiet and even rolled her eyes. Then, in a light-hearted moment, my mom joked that she hoped the next time we booked a trip, we'd include her and my dad as well. It was meant as a playful comment, but my husband immediately took it to heart. With his usual enthusiasm, he announced that he would absolutely love to take them on a trip with us. He even started discussing possible destinations, excitedly suggesting Japan is a fantastic place for a family vacation. My parents lit up at the idea, but my sister suddenly scoffed loudly enough for everyone to hear. Confused, we all turned to look at her. She then blurted out, "I just don't get how everyone is so okay with this." She shook her head and continued, her tone laced with sarcasm. "I mean, seriously, he's just a glorified housewife, basically." The entire table went silent. Everyone froze when those words came out of her mouth. The cheerful atmosphere from just moments ago vanished in an instant. My husband's face fell immediately. I kind of knew she didn't exactly respect my husband's role, but I never expected her to openly belittle him like that in front of our entire family. I felt a wave of anger rise in me. Without thinking, I immediately turned to her and demanded, "What do you mean by that?" She just shrugged her shoulders, completely unbothered, as if she hadn't just disrespected my husband in front of everyone. Then, with an air of superiority, she continued, "I've always felt like your husband is very womanly, so ladylike. No real man would ever voluntarily stay at home and take care of his kid. That's just not what men do. I was stunned. She went on, pointing at me as if she was trying to prove a point. Men are supposed to go out and earn money, not sit around playing video games and taking care of babies. That's a woman's job. He's basically just a good-for-nothing stay-at-home dad. I could feel my blood boiling. "How dare you demean my husband?" I said, my anger barely contained. "It's because of him and his job that you and your children have food on your table. It's because of his kindness and generosity that you got a brand new car when yours broke down and you had no money to replace it. It's because of him that you have a roof over your head and rent that gets paid when you're struggling. And now you have the audacity to sit here and insult him." My sister just stared at me, caught off guard by my sudden outburst. But I wasn't finished. "You call his job ladylike, as if that's something to be ashamed of. But let me tell you something. Because of this so-called ladylike job, my husband and I have built a comfortable life for ourselves. We've been able to travel, move into a new home, and most importantly, we've been able to help you when you had no one else to turn to." I could feel my hands shaking, partly from anger and partly from frustration. My husband had never once hesitated to help my sister, never once asked for anything in return. And yet, here she was, insulting him just because he didn't fit her outdated idea of masculinity. My sister clearly hadn't expected me to stand up for my husband so fiercely. Her eyes widened, and her mouth hung open in shock, as if she couldn't believe that I had actually called her out in front of everyone. At this point, my mother jumped in as well. She turned to my sister with a look of pure disappointment and scolded her right then and there. "How could you say something like this?" my mom demanded. "This is the man who has done more for you than even your own ex. He has helped you when no one else could, and this is how you repay him." The rest of the family sat in awkward silence, watching the scene unfold. My sister, now clearly on the defensive, started scrambling for an excuse. "I didn't really mean to offend anyone," she muttered, trying to brush it off. "I am just blunt sometimes. You're all getting all worked up over nothing." But I wasn't about to let her gaslight me into thinking I was overreacting. I could still see the hurt in my husband's eyes, and that alone was enough to keep me going. "Nothing." I shot back, my voice sharp. "You just publicly disrespected my husband, the father of my child, the man who has done nothing but support me, and you. And now you want to pretend it's nothing. No, you don't get to insult him, and then act like I'm the one overreacting." She tried to open her mouth to argue, but I didn't stop. "You act like you're better than him because he stays home to raise our daughter while also running a successful career. Meanwhile, the father of your own children abandoned you. And yet, you still hold on to these ridiculous ideas of what a real man should be. Well, let me tell you this. My husband is more of a real man than your ex will ever be. Since you think my husband is a good-for-nothing, since you feel he's womanly and not a real man, then from now on, you have no right to ask him for anything ever again." My voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. If you don't respect him, then you don't get to benefit from his generosity. So, the next time you're out of a job, the next time you need help paying rent or groceries, or if your car breaks down, don't come to us. Ask your deadbeat ex, since you seem to have a clearer idea of what a real man should be. The moment I said those words, my sister's eyes widened in shock. It was clear she hadn't expected such a harsh consequence for her words. She immediately started backtracking, her voice stumbling as she tried to explain. "Wait, I didn't mean it like that. I wasn't actually serious. Come on. You're overreacting, but the damage was done." My husband, who had been silent for most of this, finally spoke up. His voice was calm but resolute. "My wife's right. I've helped you for years without hesitation, despite how you've treated me. But I'm done. I'm not opening my wallet or my home to you ever again." His words carried so much finality that I saw my sister pale. She glanced around the room, hoping for someone to step in, but no one did. My parents looked disappointed in her. Our relatives avoided eye contact, and no one rushed to her defense. For years, we had been there for her. We had stepped up when her ex abandoned her, given her financial support, and made sure her children never went without. And yet, she had the audacity to mock the very man who made all of that possible. Well, now she would see what life was like without us in her corner. Ever since that night at the party, The entire family is turned against my sister. No one is on her side, and honestly, I'm not surprised. Everyone in our family loves my husband. They know how hardworking, kind, and generous he is. They've seen firsthand how much we've done for my sister over the years. So, watching her publicly demean him like that didn't sit well with anyone. Now, my sister is facing the consequences of her own actions. She has been texting me non-stop, complaining about how she feels alienated from the family. According to her, everyone is giving her the cold shoulder, and she doesn't understand why things have gotten so bad over what she calls a few simple comments. She even had the audacity to tell me that I was the one in the wrong for attacking her in front of everyone. "You shouldn't have embarrassed me like that," she wrote. "You made me look bad in front of everyone. I can't believe it." She is acting as if she is the victim here, as if I had blindsided her for no reason. But the truth is, she did this to herself. She chose to insult my husband publicly, and now she's upset that she's facing public backlash for it. I haven't responded to her texts yet because, frankly, I don't even know what to say. Am I an a-hole? Not the a-hole. She didn't make a few comments. She publicly humiliated the person who's been keeping her life from collapsing. Calling him a glorified housewife and not a real man at a family table wasn't blunt. It was cruel and dripping with jealousy. OP didn't embarrass her. She embarrassed herself. OP just stopped her from doing it without consequences. And now let's hear community's opinion. Not the a-hole, and cutting her off financially is the only language she's going to understand. She's been comfortable insulting your husband because she still gets the benefits. That's not an opinion. That's entitlement. If she genuinely believes he's good for nothing, then she shouldn't want his money, his help, or his womanly generosity. Let her live by her own standards and see how fast she changes her tune. Not the a-hole. Your sister is projecting her bitterness onto your husband because her baby daddy failed her, and it's easier to attack a good man than admit she chose a bad one. She's stuck in a mindset where man equals provider. So watching your husband succeed at home and provide probably makes her feel ashamed and angry. That's her issue to work through, not yours to fund. Not the a-hole. Now follow through. No one last time help. No emergency rent. No, it's for the kids. She'll use the kids as leverage the second she realizes you're serious. If you want, you can offer non-cash help, sending her links to resources, helping her apply for benefits, job leads, budgeting help. But keep your husband's wallet closed. Also, she owes him a direct apology, in front of the same people she insulted him in. Until then, she can keep texting into the void. Update 1. To everyone criticizing me, saying that I didn't support my husband enough, or that I let my sister walk all over him, believe me, I don't. I always support my husband. I always have, and I always will. He knows that I have his back, and that's why I didn't hesitate to stand up for him when my sister disrespected him. And honestly, you're all right. My sister is jealous of me. It's so obvious now. She's resentful of my husband because he is everything her ex could never be. My husband is a good man. He's loyal, hardworking, and a devoted father. He stepped up in ways that most men wouldn't. And instead of appreciating that, my sister tries to put him down because deep down she knows the truth. Her ex is the complete opposite. He's irresponsible, unreliable, and completely abandoned her and their children. That reality obviously stings for her. So instead of dealing with it, she is projecting her bitterness onto my husband. She mocks him for staying home and being a hands-on father because that's something she never got. She calls him womanly because she associates fatherhood and caregiving with weakness. When in reality, it takes real strength to do what my husband does. By now, I am sure she knows that she is messed up. She knows that she lost the support of not just me and my husband, but our entire family. And now she wants to play the victim. But I'm done making excuses for her. She made her bed. Now she can lie in it. Update 2. My mother called me earlier this week, and the conversation with her only confirmed what I already suspected. My sister has been in full damage control mode. According to my mom, she's been calling repeatedly trying to explain her side of things to everyone, probably hoping to gain some sympathy. But my parents and other relatives who were present at the party aren't buying it. Both my mom and dad have made it clear to my sister that if she wants to fix things, She is the one who needs to apologize and take responsibility for what she said. No excuses, no justifications, just a sincere apology. I respect my parents so much for this. They're not enabling her behavior or making excuses for her. Instead, they have straight up told me that they fully support whatever decision my husband and I make when it comes to my sister. If we never want to help her again, they're completely okay with it. In their words, my sister is a grown woman. She has made her own choices. She has her kids and she needs to learn how to take care of them on her own. My husband and I have done more than enough for her. And if she wants to act like she doesn't need us, then it's time for her to live with that decision. Now, hearing that from my parents has honestly been a relief. I had half expected them to try and guilt-trip me into forgiving my sister or giving her another chance, but they didn't. They saw how unfair she was to my husband, and they get why we're done helping her. For now, I haven't spoken to my sister at all. I've been completely ignoring her calls and texts because, honestly, I have nothing to say to her. My husband, on the other hand, has already made up his mind. He has blocked her and has no intention of ever dealing with her again, and I don't blame him one bit. After everything she said, after the way she tried to humiliate him, she doesn't deserve our kindness anymore. We went above and beyond to support her for years, and in return, she disrespected the very man who made that possible. At this point, I think I'm going to follow my husband's lead and cut her off completely. She doesn't deserve our help, our money, or even our attention. If she really thinks my husband is so useless and womanly, then she can figure out how to survive without him. I don't feel guilty, not even a little. She made her bed. Now she can lie in it. Update 3. It's been 2 months since my last update. Last night, completely out of the blue, my sister showed up at our doorstep in the middle of the night. She was crying, and standing beside her were her 2 kids, looking exhausted and scared. I could tell right away that something was seriously wrong. Turns out she hasn't been able to pay her rent because her job doesn't even pay her enough to keep up with her bills. Her landlord had apparently given her multiple warnings, but she still fell behind. And now he finally kicked her out. She had nowhere else to go, so she came to us for help. For a moment, I just stood there staring at her. This was the same woman who had mocked my husband for staying home, who had called him a glorified housewife and not a real man. The same sister who had tried to humiliate him in front of our entire family. And now she was suddenly back begging us for a roof over her head. I felt sorry for her and the kids, but I didn't want to help her. She hasn't once apologized to me or my husband, and now just because she needed us didn't mean that I would just forget everything and let her in. I straight away told her that she needed to find a motel, or better yet, go ask her ex for help. Hearing this, she immediately got defensive, arguing that I was her sister and that it was my responsibility to help her out, not his. She tried to reason with me, saying she just needed a place to stay for a few months so she could save up and find something more permanent for herself and the kids. I shook my head and told her firmly that I couldn't allow that. I reminded her that she was on her own now, that it wasn't my job or my husband's job to take care of her. I made it clear that she had burned this bridge the moment she disrespected the very man who had done so much to help her over the years. I also pointed out how she never even bothered to apologize for the awful things she said about my husband. She had months to make things right. Yet, she chose to ignore us until, of course, she needed something. Now suddenly, she was standing at our doorstep, expecting us to open our home to her as if nothing had happened. The audacity of it all was infuriating. She tried to argue, tried to make excuses, but I wasn't having it. My decision was final. She needed to figure things out without us, just like she had claimed she could. I didn't want to argue anymore, especially not in front of her kids. So, without another word, I closed the door on her. She stood outside yelling at me, saying things like I was cruel, heartless, and a terrible sister. But I didn't budge. I could hear her kids sniffling in the background. And while that part hurt me, I knew I had made the right choice. In the end, she had no choice but to leave. She ended up going to my parents' place where she's staying for now. My father, from what I've heard, is incredibly disappointed in her. He sees right through her excuses and knows exactly why she's in this situation. But at the same time, he and my mom have agreed to let her stay temporarily, mostly for the sake of the kids. Update 4. It's been a while since my last update. I thought things had finally settled down after my sister went to stay with my parents, but I was wrong. Yesterday, while I was at work, she showed up at our house completely unannounced and completely drunk. My husband told me later that it started with loud banging on the door. At first, he thought it was a delivery or maybe a neighbor, but then he heard her yelling. She was screaming his name, demanding he open the door. When he finally did, she shoved her way inside, looking disheveled and angry. Right away, she started blaming him for everything. She accused him of destroying our relationship, saying that if it weren't for him, I never would have cut her off. She went on a rant about how he had brainwashed me against my own family, how he was nothing but a pathetic excuse for a man. My husband, being the calm and rational person he is, tried to de-escalate the situation. He told her to sit down, to take a deep breath, to just calm down. But that's when he realized something was really off. She was slurring her words, swaying on her feet. She was clearly drunk. So instead of engaging with her, he reached for his phone and called my mom. I, of course, was at work when this all went down, so I had no idea. My husband tried calling me too, but I was stuck in a meeting and didn't see the missed calls right away. Meanwhile, my sister kept ranting, getting louder and angrier, calling him names, saying that if he were a real man, he would have helped her instead of turning his back on her at her time of need. My mom never answered his call, and by that point, my sister was getting worse. She started throwing things like she knocked over a lamp and nearly broke a glass on the counter. At one point, she even yelled at our daughter, who was innocently just standing nearby, which is when my husband realized that this was beyond just an argument. So, he did what he had to do. He called the police. When the officers arrived, my sister was still in the middle of screaming at him. The second she saw them, she tried to play it off like he was the problem, acting as if she had done nothing wrong when she was the one who had barged into our place. But she was clearly intoxicated, and my husband had the entire situation recorded on our home security cameras. The officers didn't buy her act. In the end, they took her away. She was booked for trespassing. By the time I finally saw the missed calls and texts, everything had already happened. My husband filled me in, and I was furious at my sister for crossing the line again. Furious that she dared to show up and harass my husband when I wasn't home, and furious that she yelled at my daughter. If I had even the smallest amount of sympathy left for my sister, it's completely gone now. I can never forgive her now. My husband and I have agreed that if she ever shows up at our home again, we'll get a restraining order. Our entire family now knows that my sister was arrested and had to spend the night in jail. My parents are in complete shock. They never thought things would escalate this far. My father is furious. He's saying that enough is enough and that he wants to kick her out immediately. He's been patient with her for too long, and now he feels like she's putting herself, and more importantly, her kids, in danger. My mom confessed to me that she's noticed my sister drinking a lot more lately, even when she's supposed to be watching her kids. She admitted that there have been nights when my sister came home clearly drunk, stumbling around while the kids were still awake. My mom never wanted to believe it was a real problem, but after this incident, she can't deny it anymore. Now, my parents are scared. They're terrified that if my sister continues down this path, she could unintentionally harm her children. My father wants her gone immediately, but my mother is torn. She knows my sister is spiraling, but at the same time, she doesn't want to abandon the grandkids. At this point, I have no idea what's going to happen next, but one thing is clear. My sister needs serious help, and she's running out of people willing to give it to her.